Okay, first person jump back on. Are we in? Does the camera look normal? If you're able to respond and tell me if the camera is flipped or if it's straight, that'd be so useful so that I know if I'm doing this right, because this is the pilot test. I've never used the YouTube Live feature, and I hope I can figure this out so that I can make this a thing where we all come together. Let's see. Please tell me if the camera looks straight or if it's sideways. I wanted to jump off, jump back on to put it correctly so that this is gonna film sort of from a wide lens as opposed to the long one. So we'll see what happens. So far, okay. Let's see if this works. Ouch. Hey, for those who just joined, today is this pilot test. I've never used YouTube Live. Please let me know if the camera is straight or if it's crooked. I see people jumping on and off, but we'll see who sticks around for this little baking tutorial we're gonna do. I have these really mushy bananas, so I thought what better way to use them than to bake with them. And because I have a lot of stuff in my house that makes really nice almond bread, we're gonna turn this into a banana almond bread with a little chocolate chips. I'll throw a little walnut in there just to see what I can use up in my kitchen. So thanks for joining. This is gonna be fun. I hope we can do some like live cook with me sessions. It would be awesome if I can make that a regular thing. I'm not honestly the best chef, even though all my content is about healthy eating, healthy baking, or really it's like healthy cooking, Mediterranean diet and lifestyle. By definition, if you're going to be following something like the Mediterranean approach to eating, ideally you wanna be cooking with whole foods, or getting in the kitchen somehow, preparing your own meals. That is a big part of Mediterranean culture. It's very food centric. So we're gonna make that part of the whole process. So I don't know if there's a way. Hopefully you guys can comment or ask questions or do something. Get involved, let me know. I hope you can hear me okay. If not, that would be challenging, but we'll have to figure that out. Anyway, this is gonna be really casual. It's the kind of thing where if it's a time of day for you where you're preparing a meal, maybe it's dinner time, if you live on the West Coast or in central US, like Mountain Standard Time, then probably this is the time of day where you're cooking or preparing a meal. If you're in Europe, you're probably asleep. And if you're in Australia, it's probably tomorrow. So this should be something where everybody can get something out of it. I hope so. All right, let's see. I don't really see how there's a way, if anybody's able to put like comments, I'm not seeing them. So I hope that I'm doing this correctly. Let me know if I'm not. I'm happy to troubleshoot this. Top chat, super chat, none. I guess they'll just pop up. Yeah, if anybody has anything to say, you want to write in the chat, I hope I can see it. It should pop up for me. Okay. And I'm following a baking recipe that I pulled up from Google. In general, I don't really love recipes. I'm kind of like, I go rogue in the kitchen, but when it comes to baking, recipes are always the way to go, of course. If you mess up the ratios, the proportions, the textures, it comes out all wrong. So I'm following this recipe that, I don't know, I just kind of Google. I always look at like, I don't know, anywhere from 3 to 5 different recipes if I want to do a baked good, and I just kind of like compare and contrast. And I'm ultimately looking for a recipe that I already have the ingredients for, because I didn't go grocery shopping for this. I just kind of had stuff in my house and I'm like, okay, let's make this almond butter banana bread and we'll throw in some walnuts and chocolate chips in there. So that's what we're doing now. So if any of you are bakers, Bananas are obviously awesome to use because they're sweet, but they add a lot of moisture. And so when you have bananas going bad, it's like the best thing to do ever. It's just to mush them up. So I just need to check the ratios. I'm looking at this recipe I Googled, found a couple. This one is from a blog. It's called Frozen Bananas. Okay, so they want 1 1/3 cup. Liquid measuring cup, obviously. Super useful if you're gonna be doing anything baking. So let's see. What's challenging is that bananas, for example, if you're going to be baking with bananas and a recipe tells you the number of bananas, it's tricky because not all bananas are the same size. Some are like twice the size of others. So often they're gonna tell you how many, at least in the US, it's gonna be how many cups of mushed banana. But then you think, well, I don't know how many bananas is gonna be half a cup or 1 cup. So you just have to play around. So this was 1 banana. It came out to less than half a cup. So I need, thank goodness I have more. I might end up using all 4 of these. I'm trying to double this recipe so that, oh, you know, I already broke the first rule of baking, which is set the oven. So what, this one's gonna go to, I don't know, 350. That sounds about right. Alrighty. What's everybody else up to on this Saturday night? Hopefully some fun stuff. This time of the year is like the classic summer blues, I think some people experience. I'm a sucker for the Hallmark Channel, and they were having, I think it was Hallmark or maybe Lifetime, like the Christmas in July. Love that stuff. Anyway, we should probably talk about like a health topic because that's what this is all about. So something that I was thinking about earlier today, a lady commented on my YouTube video that was posted earlier today, and she was telling this story about her son. Her son is following like a lot of the latest food trends that are going around the internet, which is like the keto and carnivore diets. If you're not familiar with that, the ketogenic diet, it's a very high fat diet. And by definition, 85% of your calories should come from fat, 15% from protein, and just 5% from carbohydrate. So it's a nearly 0 carb diet. But I think when most people say like, oh yeah, I'm doing the keto diet, they're not technically following it, which is fine. I mean, diets are meant to be, you should make it your own. You should never feel confined to the rules of a dietary pattern. It's kind of, I'm always of the opinion you take what you like and you leave the rest. So if somebody wants to say that they're eating keto, but like if they broke down their true dietary regimen and tried to calculate what's the breakdown of carbs to protein to fat in their diet, and they were maybe more like 60 or 70% fat, technically it's not keto, but that's fine. They're leaning towards a ketogenic diet. Fine, very high fat. Then the other craze that's been going around is the carnivore diet. So if any of you have heard anything about this, or if you've spent any time on YouTube looking at food content, which probably all of you have done because you're on this live right now and that is the content I make, you might have come into contact with this information. So suffice as to say, somebody commented on one of my YouTube videos and telling the story about her son has been following a lot of those trends. And he's of the opinion that most of the diet should be meat and that plants are toxic and yada, yada, yada. We know the story. This is a really challenging narrative, I think, to break down for people, because if you feel that plants are bad for you and that fiber is not an essential nutrient, I don't know if there's very much that I could say to convince you otherwise. Because from everything we know from research, from medical research, and just thinking about classic diets throughout the world in all of human history, plants have almost always been included. And we know that fiber is an essential component of our diet that really is just coming from plants. We need fiber to help with our digestion and the gut microbiome. That's all the bacteria and the fungi and other things that live inside of us. Those organisms need to thrive and they need fiber to do that because that's their food. So if you feel that fiber is not essential, I mean, it's tricky. I don't like to tell people that they're wrong, but that is one of those things where I don't think you could ever argue that that is true by any scientific standpoint. So I think it comes down to people for how they feel emotionally. Hey, Dr. Anna. Hello, our first commenter. I'm glad that it's working. Good to know. Okay, so I'm talking too much. I need to focus on this recipe or I'm never gonna get this thing in the oven. Okay, I needed to do 1 1/3 cup of mashed bananas. This is not even a cup. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to probably use all 4 of these mushy bananas. This is like the perfect banana to put in a baked good. It's got tons of brown spots. It's overripe, super sweet. And the nice thing about, using bananas in a recipe, you don't really have to add a lot of sugar. Hi, Anna from Australia. Hi. Oh, that's cool because I was thinking, what time of the day is it for a lot of my viewers? I have a lot of folks in Australia, in South Africa, and in Europe, and it's 9:30 p.m. of all, Saturday night. This is my life now. Clinical doctor. A lot of people are in different time zones, and so what's cool is that folks that are in Australia or like New Zealand, for example, it's Sunday for you. So maybe you can wake up and bake with me. That's fun. And I'm baking on my Saturday night, but it's honestly one of my favorite things to do for fun. I tried to go to a dance club last night with some friends and my husband. The music was so bad that we left after 20 minutes. So we tried, didn't work for very long. I'm gonna stay home tonight. That's probably always the better option. So somebody commented before, but it disappeared off the screen. I don't know if oh no, I can see if I touch my screen. Okay. Hi, 11:30 a.m. Sunday here. So cool. Hi, Susan. Welcome. Thanks for being one of the guinea pigs on my pilot test of using the YouTube live feature. This is the very first time I'm doing this. And that also confirms that you can hear me. I don't have a microphone set up. Because I'm used to having my big microphone that I talk into when I make my formal videos, but since this is kind of informal, I just didn't have a way to do that. So if you can hear me, that's great because maybe I don't need to get a microphone. Okay, so for those who've maybe joined a little later, we are baking. Oh, great. Thank you, Susan, I appreciate it. We're baking, or rather I'm baking and you're hanging out with me. Although I encourage you to jump in your kitchen too. My hope is that this can become a new regular thing that I do with my YouTube channel where I can jump on when I'm baking or when I'm cooking and just go live. And if anybody's at home and they wanna do some baking or cooking as well to follow along, this isn't really gonna be much of a demo, but rather, jump in the kitchen while I'm in the kitchen or just watch to get ideas or just hang out with me. That's fun too. Okay, so let's see. I have, that's probably plenty. It needed 1 1/3 mashed bananas. Oh, this is gonna come up backwards, but that's fine. So there's the 1 cup, there's 1 1/4. I'm not quite there, but I don't wanna add a whole other banana because that's gonna put me way over. So that's gonna just be enough. So let's see. One of the classic baking things to know if you're not a baker or you've never really tried baking, you want to separate the wet and the dry and then you combine them after each of those categories are kind of pre-mixed. So mushed bananas, wet, oil, wet. In this recipe, I'm going to be using almond butter that I have already in my house, a wet ingredient, as well as eggs, a wet ingredient. If you don't eat eggs and you cook or bake with a flax egg, if you know what that is, that would be also considered a wet ingredient. So it's important to kind of just differentiate. Vanilla extract, that's always a wet ingredient because it's liquid. Okay, so what did we do so far? We did mush the bananas, then add the almond butter. I need 1/3 of a cup. And then I'm gonna be adding oil to this. This is a non-butter recipe. I don't even have butter in my house right now, so I needed a recipe that called for oil. So I'm gonna be using some oil. Okay, this is a hot topic. Do we even wanna go into this right now? Might as well. I said in a recent video that if it feels really expensive to buy olive oil or avocado oil, which is a common thing that I hear from a lot of folks. Technically speaking, in terms of the biochemistry, canola oil is not bad for you. But people really freak out when they hear that because they're another hot topic on the internet in the world of nutrition. I don't know when this started, maybe a couple of years ago, is that seed oils are like the devil and they're super toxic for us. Now, there is definitely, I think, a lot that we don't know and appreciate about how processed foods are and how that impacts our body in terms of the level of inflammation we experience. And no doubt, if you don't feel comfortable eating a food, you shouldn't eat it. But in terms of the actual nutritional biochemistry, the breakdown of which kinds of fatty acids are in it, canola oil has a good breakdown of biochemistry because it has a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, and those are really essential for our brain health. And the truth is, a lot of seeds have more omega-6s than omega-3s. That's why people get really hyped up about how inflammatory or problematic seeds can be, especially seed oils, which are, you know, the purified oil from those foods. So where am I going with this? The point is that canola does come from a seed. It's rapeseed oil. I didn't actually know this. I think it was created in a lab in Canada. Because it's a seed, people assume that all seeds are kind of the same, which means that seeds would have more omega-6s than omega-3s, which throws off the ratio of 6s to 3s in your body, which some people feel is causing a lot of inflammation. I don't necessarily have such a hard set opinion on all of that. I hear the perspective and I can understand it. I can follow the logic. But the cool thing is that canola oil is a seed that doesn't have that same biochemical breakdown. It's actually more omega-3s than the other kinds of seeds, so it's a little bit more balanced. And that's great. So that's why canola oil is considered like healthier as far as all of these seed plant oils go. Now, if you don't like that and that's not working for you, you don't have to eat canola oil. But the point is, olive oil is expensive, especially buying it far apart, you know, in parts of the world that are really far away from where these olives are grown. So if you're not living in the Mediterranean region, for example, it might be very expensive to pick up some olive oil if that's not something you're used to budgeting into your overall food budget. So canola oil is a lot cheaper, and you're still gonna get a decent breakdown of biochemical composition in terms of giving your body nutrition. How much canola oil is or is not good, I can't give an answer. I don't have an answer for that. You have to just decide what's best for you. You can always talk to a dietitian who will work one-on-one with you and make your perfect diet. That is something I encourage always. We love our dietitians. Okay, so now I'm going to be adding in the almond butter. So first, let's put the mashed banana in this bowl. That is my oven, which is set to the temperature. It's ready whenever I am, and of course, I'm the rate limiting step now. Okay, next, almond butter. I like baking with almond butter because it adds a lot of oil, adds a lot of flavor, a little bit of fiber, and a lot of delicious moisture and healthy oils inside of it. So it's a pretty decent thing to do. Let me see. They want 2/3 of a cup. I'll tell you, when I lived in Italy, everything was in milliliters and grams and milligrams and kilograms. So when I moved back to the US, I had to switch my brain back, and it had been several years where I was never thinking outside of the metric system. And I have to say, I much prefer the metric system because, like, what is 2/3 of a cup? I just have to figure it out. Now, you can always bake and measure with weight. I do have a scale because we always weigh our pasta out. Oh, I need that fork. That is perfectly fine. It's much more precise to measure everything by weight anyway. So if that's you and you like to weigh everything out, you know, amazing. What I would say is, depending on where you're finding your recipes, it's hard to find recipes that are already kind of listed out, like in terms of the ingredients, by weight. They're often by volume. So ChatGPT is gonna be your best friend there. All right, that is 1/3. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna sneeze. This is what's funny about the lives. It's not like if I'm filming regular where I could just sneeze and we'll cut it out. You guys are all gonna see me sneeze. That's fine. I'm human too. Okay, so let's see. I can't actually see this. You guys can't, oh, I just realized you can't see the counter. That's a bummer. Oh, I mean, this isn't really a cooking demo. You'll just believe me when I say I'm measuring almond butter right now. We need a third. Oh no, I needed 2/3, this is correct. Wow, this is a lot of almond butter. This is good because this has been sitting in my pantry for a couple weeks already. I kind of wanted to go through it. Do you guys ever bake with almond butter or nut butters in general? How does that go for you? If you put the comment on, it pops on the screen, but then I wonder if there's a way for me to get the audio notification. It would be easier for me to follow along. Let's see, that's a half a cup. Darn, this is taking forever. This is the part of baking that's not fun because you have to measure. In cooking, you just throw the spice on, do a little more, eyeball it, you're done, move on. This part drives me crazy. Yep, good enough. That's good enough. Oof. So that's fun. It's Saturday where I am, and some of you are already on Sunday. I love the internet. That's very cool. Okay, I need 2/3 cup, then 4 tablespoons of oil. Okay. Oh my goodness. I used to be so good at these conversions. 4 tablespoons is what in cups? Is it 3 tablespoons in a 1/4 cup? Oh, bother. I can't use my app on my phone because my phone is the one filming. Okay, Google. Hey, Google. How many tablespoons is in cups? Okay, convert 4 tablespoons. Yep, 4 tablespoons in a 1/4 cup. Got it. I thought it was 3. All right, not too bad. Good to know. Hey, there's more and more folks joining. This is awesome. I hope that this is fun for you guys because this is way more, what's the word for like economical for time? This is really good way for me to spend my time to give you guys a little bit more content. And I think a lot of people really like that raw style of content where we can all just kind of be real with each other. And everything's so edited these days. It's nice to just be human. I like that. Like that really classic, solid human to human connection. So I have to eat and I like to cook and bake. So I might as well do that while we can all connect. How about that? That was the concept behind starting this. Okay, so next, wow, that was a lot of almond butter. We're gonna do, oops, okay. I'm at home, so it doesn't matter if I lick my finger. 4 tablespoons of oil is the same thing as a 1/4 cup. Fun trick, if you ever bake with honey, obviously honey's super sticky, and if you have to measure it in like a glass liquid measuring cup, for example, it's very annoying to clean up. So pro tip, if you also have oil in the recipe, you measure the oil first, and then you pour it out, and then you measure the honey inside of that same container, and the honey just falls right out. It just slips right out, and you don't even have to worry about cleaning it. You just have to worry about cleaning the oily aspect of it. But it makes it so quick and decent. I learned that when I was a nutrition undergraduate student. And our food science professor, we had like a cooking lab, and she taught us that, and it changed my life. Quite literally. Works for peanut butter too. Yeah, exactly. Anything sticky, yeah, obviously I didn't demonstrate it perfectly because I did the almond butter first, but if you start with the oil and anything else after, it just slips right out. But the trick is, I guess you wouldn't want to spatula out the oil. You want to keep the oil in there as much as possible. Okay, then I'm doing my eggs. It calls for 4 eggs. I need an extra egg. Something funny happened where we have a new refrigerator and it's hard for us to tell what the temperature is. And a few of our eggs froze, and we saw all these eggs were cracked inside the paper container. We said, how's that possible? I checked at the grocery store. They weren't cracked. I don't remember them rolling around in the car or anything. And we realized they're freezing and expanding and it's cracking them. So that stinks. I lost a few eggs because our refrigerator's too cold. Not actually a problem at the end of the day. Okay, now we're going for the eggs. I like baking with eggs. I've tried baking with those flax eggs that people use. You can take flax meal, ground up, that's an equivalent amount. You add water to it. You have to let it, I forget how long it has to sit, but it kind of gelatinizes. And it's great because if you're vegan or you don't want to eat eggs, the texture-wise, it's awesome in a baked recipe. Plus, it adds a lot of healthy fats. Flax seeds are also seeds that are super high in omega-3 fatty acids. But anyway, long story short, I prefer baking with eggs. I just like the texture more and the flavor. Yeah, what else is everybody up to? By the way, this can be a time, if you guys have questions about things, I'm happy to answer them. That's really what this is for. This is for you guys. I mean, I'm here, but we can talk about any topic. Of course, something off the top of my head. But any questions you guys have, there are certain themes that kind of come up in the comment sections under my videos. So I'm happy to just kind of ad lib. You know, we can just jump into some of those topics. But a lot of people want help with how to get started with the Mediterranean diet, recipe ideas, easy recipes, how to approach it, how to incorporate certain food components into their diet, things like beans, for example, or how to decrease the eating out, you know, tips and tricks for all of those things. That's the kind of stuff I'm really happy to share with anybody who wants to learn about it. Because I think what can get lost on us, health is very cliche, but I really do believe it. Health is a journey. It's not a destination. So you have to continuously practice healthy habits to stay healthy. It's not enough to get healthy and then that's it for the rest of time. That's actually not how it works. Oh, darn, I'm not done with the liquid part. I'm talking too much. Anyway, I'm game for any questions you guys have. That is like the perfect thing we do. I love banana bread. Seems so high calorie. Is it mostly good fats? What a great question. So totally depends on how you make your banana bread. I am not baking with any ingredients that aren't healthy in and of themselves. No doubt it can be high calorie, but this is why we slice it up. Hi, KO. Oh, I see some of you who comment on like almost all my videos. It's so great to see you show up here. Yeah, so banana bread definitely is high calorie, but it's a dessert. I don't think of banana bread as like a whole food in and of itself, even if it comes from Whole Foods. It is cake. It is just healthier, tastier, yummy, earthy cake, but I think of it as cake. So I treat it like that. So if I'm gonna have like a nice treat, I believe in the power of dessert. I think it's an important part of a healthy and wonderful life. When you wanna have some dessert, have some dessert. So I would definitely keep it in mind. Almost all of the baked goods that I like to eat, if it's just for our house and it's not somebody's birthday or an occasion where we're hosting or other people are gonna be eating it along with us, I don't just leave it all on the counter for the whole week and then eat 5 slices a day. I actually pre-slice it. It goes in the freezer. And then I recognize, okay, 1 a day, a couple slices a week, that's no big deal for me and the amount that I typically eat. But I'm not gonna just eat an entire cake myself in a week. I'm not just with myself, it's my husband too, but he doesn't have the sweet tooth I have. So often he'll like have a bite every now and then, but he'll go like several days without any sweets and that's totally fine. But every day I like to have something. Everybody's a little different. Okay, let me focus for 1 second so I don't mess this up. 1/2 cup of maple syrup, that's a lot. Here's another thing. Whenever a recipe, I like things to be semi-sweet, not super sweet. So if a recipe calls for a certain amount of sugar, I'll often just put 1/2, just because I can. Are you gonna post the recipe? Totally. So I'm going to, this video automatically gets recorded. Wow, this has already been 30 minutes. But we're gonna chop it down, edit it up a little bit. we have muffins. That I don't have a muffin tin, but that would work the same way. I'm using the loaf pans, these kinds. I like the texture of the really moist center with how deep it is, but muffins are great. But anyway, yes, I'm going to be sending this video once it's done to my editor, and he's gonna clean it up a little bit, cut out some of the long pauses, and then we will upload this to the channel, and underneath, I can totally post the recipe. I'm following it from this blog that I found, and I'm not following it perfectly. Like I mentioned, I am gonna put half the amount of, this one calls for maple syrup. They say to put half a cup, I'm only putting a quarter cup. I just like a little bit of a less sweet taste, plus bananas to me are already super sweet. And I'm always trying to be mindful of the amount of added sugar I have in my diet. So if I'm gonna cut something, it's probably gonna be on the pure sugar. Okay, and that is a quarter cup, perfect. But I was mentioning this earlier, if any of you have been on since the beginning of this live, this is the time in the year where I am done with summer. Some people live for summer. I am a fall winter person by a long shot. So there was, I think it was Lifetime or it was the Hallmark Channel, one of them was doing Christmas in July. I could not have been more stoked. First of all, I love those cheesy movies. They all have the same plot and it never gets old to me. My husband can't stand them. But I also am just craving the next season at this point in the summer. I'm like, okay, it's already been 2 months of a lot of heat, mosquitoes where I am. So I'm good on summer, but a lot of people think I'm crazy for saying that. I don't know, I don't get sick of winter. I've always loved the mountains. It's just me. Okay, so the next thing is probably this vanilla extract. Thanks for hanging out with me on my Saturday night, everybody. This is awesome. So yeah, it's 2 teaspoons. I'm gonna just put like a little, and then the rest is the dry stuff. Wow, this is the slowest I've ever made a baking recipe, but that's because I'm hanging out with all of you. Okay, and then, so here's the other business about baking. Vanilla extract is super expensive, but it's so potent that depends on how often you bake. A little jar of like this is 60 milliliters, 2 fluid ounces. This will last me more than a year. I don't bake that often, like maybe once a month. And like I said, I always like to make a larger recipe, but then I freeze it, or I give some slices away to people or little muffins away. So I like to share baked goods so that I don't eat too much of it myself. But at the same time, some of the ingredients for things like baked goods can be so expensive up front, but then the ingredients last a really long time. And I always think the same thing with like nut butters or nuts or seeds. If you buy a pound bag, a 2-pound bag, that can be 20 bucks sometimes, but it lasts. I missed the beginning besides maple syrup, almond flour. Oh, what other healthy swaps are we using? So actually, I'm not really swapping anything. This is just a recipe for, thank you for reminding me. So for anybody who wasn't here in the beginning, I'm baking banana almond bread, which uses almond butter. So ground up almonds like that I just got from the grocery store. And then a little bit of almond flour. I'm gonna go half-half with all-purpose flour and almond flour. There's no swaps. The recipe just calls for eggs and almond butter and mushed bananas that are overripe. So I just wanted that kind of a recipe, but the thing was, this is my pilot test of using this YouTube live feature. I've never done this before, so I just really wanted to jump on here because I was in the mood to bake and I really wanted to figure out this technology. And these are all ingredients I already had in my house, and I had a bunch of bananas that were going bad. So I thought, okay, let's bake something with them, and might as well use this opportunity to test a YouTube live feature. It's better than me just sitting in front of the camera talking at the wall until somebody jumps on. At least I'm using the time well. So that's all it is. I just already had all of these ingredients and thought, hey, maybe somebody wants to get inspired or jump in the kitchen while I'm in the kitchen too, and we can kind of bake along with each other. I hope to make this a more regular thing. I think this is gonna be a nice way for us to connect with each other, kind of in really casual. You guys can jump on and ask any questions. We can talk about any topic you want, of things that I'm allowed to talk about online. It's not going to be medical advice. That's not something we can do. But none of my content is really medical advice. It's really more just tips and tricks, reminders, things I've learned along the way, from not just my medical training and my nutrition background, but really life, living in more than one country and all the things I picked up from other cultures, that kind of thing. Okay, so now I have to do the dry ingredients. So it's gonna be 1 cup and 1 cup. And like I mentioned, I'm gonna go half and half with regular all-purpose flour and almond flour. So I'm doubling this recipe. So this is calling for 2 cups of flour total because I have 2 little loaves in the background. Now, let's see. If I wanted to be really texture focused, I could sieve my flour, you know, put it through one of those small sieves to fluff it up. I'm not gonna do that. A little bit lazy when it comes to the finesse. But I always said, one day when I retire, I wanna study, or maybe not, I'm not gonna wait that long. I'm at the beginning of my career, not the end. But I wanna learn how to really make baked goods more properly. I think it's like a beautiful art. But until then, I'm just gonna cut corners when I cut corners. Does anybody else, so this is almond flour. Again, one of those pricier ingredients, but I don't use it that often. So if I buy this, I'm only gonna end up purchasing it maybe a few times a year maximum. And I keep it in a dark, cool cabinet shelf away from light and heat. You could even leave it in the fridge. And then I have it in a sealed Ziploc bag. You could make your own almond flour. That can be expensive. My sister and I used to live together. I made this recipe once. This was the most expensive cake I ever made because the ingredients themselves cost like $50. We were in a phase where my sister was following like a very strict paleo dietary approach. No grains at all. She was dealing with some health challenges, and so this was like a really, you know, it was a different suggestion that her doctor made, say, you know, try changing up your diet, let's see what happens. And she ended up getting a lot of success from cutting out grains. And I hear that from a lot of people. So anyway, we were living together, so it was easier for me to just sort of follow her diet because we were sharing our groceries and doing all of the errands together. So I started eating a lot fewer grains in those years that we lived together. And I made this cake because our birthdays are 2 weeks apart. So I made this cake that was, the base of it was almonds and pistachios, no flour, so I had to grind up the nuts. There was a lot of egg in it, and then the sugar and the sweetener. I can't really remember all the ingredients, it was years ago. But anyway, it was just so expensive buying the volume of nuts needed to create the volume of the cake, so we had no flour. And we weren't using, I think the backbone of it to make it all stick together was almond flour. Wow, those pistachios really added up, but it was so dense, it was amazing. It tasted really good. Okay, now, I'm gonna hurry up a little on this. So we did the flour, 1 and 1, and then cinnamon. Ooh, here's the other thing. I never measure my cinnamon. I love cinnamon. Just for a future sweet, quick recipe, put cinnamon or spices. Yep, I'm adding the things now. So cinnamon, they always say 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. I just throw that on there. I'm not measuring because I like a lot of cinnamon and it'll come out the way it comes out. Don't follow me. I don't have the best suggestions all the time, but you guys can do it. If you want to be strict recipe followers, I wouldn't recommend against that. That's probably a good idea. And then the salt. So here's the other thing. I don't trust a baked good that doesn't have any salt. I think salt really brings things together, brings out the sweetness too. So if any of you are watching your sodium, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But for those who don't have hypertension or aren't necessarily following a specifically low sodium diet, and you're eating almost all whole foods, don't be afraid to use salt at the same time. It is, you know, sodium and chloride are essential nutrients for our body too. Okay, I need with the baking soda. So I'm just gonna, like a little teaspoon. just a tiny, it's like a pinch of salt. And then a teaspoon. I will put the recipe that I'm using under this video, so if anybody wants it later, no, don't worry about that. Wow, it's late, I gotta get this in the oven. Gluten-free, cinnamon. Sorry, this part's boring because I don't have this recipe memorized and I want to make sure I'm not messing it up. And then just the baking soda and then chocolate chips. Okay. Baking soda, baking powder. This one wants baking soda. 1 teaspoons. Okay. Good. Moving along. Now, this is fun. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I know I'm a little bit jumping all over the place here, but it is fun to just play around in the kitchen, and if we can do it while we hang out together and talk about healthy topics, that's always good. Anyway, I was talking earlier about, somebody made a comment, I think I didn't quite finish my train of thought, about like the keto carnivore diets, and kind of how to talk through that with folks. If anyone has been paying attention to some of that content that's really going viral online, it's super trendy. There's always going to be trends in nutrition. It's like fashion. Something's always in vogue and something's always out of vogue. What I like about the Mediterranean diet is it's never really in or out of vogue. It's like evergreen. And it seems like people are always kind of talking about it, but it doesn't really like climb in the trends, which I think is a good thing because it's not a trend. People have been living like this forever, almost forever. So now we just check that I did everything. Bump, 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 bump. So this is the important thing. We want to mix this, like kind of folding the dry into the wet so it doesn't get too gummy. I've made that mistake before. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's go through the ingredients. Mushed banana, almond butter. I used canola oil, but you could use avocado oil or melted butter, I guess, if you wanted to. Eggs, maple syrup, vanilla extract, flour. I used half and half all-purpose flour. Did you prep your pans? Yep, they're in the back. I got parchment paper for that. Good question. So I did almond flour and all-purpose flour, and then cinnamon, baking soda, a little salt, and I'm gonna fold in the chocolate chips at the end. Okay, awesome. So I have my dry ingredients here. All looks good. Keep it organically. Awesome. Here's my wet ingredients. So I'm gonna fold in, I'm gonna switch from my whisk to the spatula. That's gonna be a little easier. And just shake this in. I don't know if any of you are bakers yourselves. I grew up in a household where my mother and my older sister are such good bakers, and both my grandmothers were pretty good, especially my mom's mom. She was like an absolute whiz with cakes. So I didn't really have a lot of experience baking growing up because everybody else sort of stole that thunder. And it wasn't until I was in college that I started playing around with baking. And I like it a lot. I'm not as artistic as some people are with it. I just kind of play around and follow a recipe and see what happens. But I like baking with a lot of earthy spices. Longtime baker here, my baking clogs the arteries. This is the thing. I was at in my outpatient clinic last week, and the nurses were having a bake-off. And wow, they were both so good, but they were super different. One of them, I don't remember what it was called. It was like a Dutch chocolate thing. It was like a chocolate torte, super dense, and it had a graham cracker like crust. It was one of those like almost like mud pies. And then the other lady made this strawberry banana cake with a homemade whipped topping. Oh, it was so good. I love fruit desserts. I voted for the strawberry banana, but I knew I'd be biased. All the other doctors in my team, they were voting for the chocolate one. But anyway, I totally get it. Baked goods are one of my weaknesses. I like pastries like croissants and things. I try to only save those for really special treats in my calendar year, like if it's my birthday or I'm celebrating something specific, like, I don't know, somebody won the lottery or something like that. Anyway, okay, so I'm mixing this in. I'm gonna then pan it, and we're gonna probably end the live right after I place this in the pan because there's nothing that we're gonna be doing while I'm waiting for it to bake. I'll have to jump off, but maybe I'll be able to take a little video clip of the finished product so that when we put this back on the YouTube channel for the rewatch, everybody gets to see the finished product. All right, that is looking so good. Oh yeah, and the other thing is that I did put this in, I don't know if everybody can see the community page on the YouTube channel. It is somewhere that I sometimes make posts, let you guys know, FYI, if I'm working on something new or I want you guys to know something. So I did a post about this last week, but I am on other social media platforms too, like Instagram and Facebook and TikTok a little bit. If you're not following me there, I really suggest that you do because I'm putting a bit of other kinds of content there. This is really for teaching and full long videos. But on Instagram, for example, I'll jump on there and I've been filming answers to a lot of like the common questions I'm getting on the YouTube videos that a lot of you are asking sort of in a consistent pattern. And I figure instead of just answering your comments on the videos like I've always done, maybe it would be better if I did a little short form video clip describing the answer so that it kind of can get out to more people. And I think it's been going pretty well so far with that. But definitely, if you're on Instagram and you're not following me, you probably should because it's gonna give a little bit of a different angle to the content and it's short form stuff, so it can be easier to follow, especially in the middle of our work days. Please set your live on a set schedule. I'll come back. Good, thank you. Yeah, I was thinking, it's challenging because I'm at a job now where I'm changing my schedule often. I don't have the same day every week where I'd be off, and sometimes I'm on day shift and sometimes I'm in the night shift at the hospital. So I'm gonna have a challenge probably to find a consistent time weekly where I can always show up here. When I have a weekend off, like I did this weekend, of course it's easy to say, okay, yeah, I have Saturday and Sunday available, so that's why I'm able to do this. I'm probably only gonna have a weekend off like once a month in a Saturday, Sunday, so I'm gonna work on that. We'll see how it goes. In any case, oh, that was not big enough. Oh la la. Some of you might be way better bakers than I am, so please don't judge me if I'm doing something wrong. But please tell me if I'm doing something wrong. Right. That's looking good. Just need it to be bigger. Okay. Very good. I didn't used to use parchment paper. It's very loud. As much as I do now. Oh, you know, I forgot to put the walnuts in. That's probably enough nuts without the almond butter. I'm gonna skip the walnuts. What was I just saying? I used to always grease all my pans. Oh yeah, upcoming. I used to always grease my pans with butter for all the baked goods and such, but then I realized, if I'm not using butter as much, then maybe I don't wanna have to do that, plus it's an extra step. So I think it was my sister who first taught me, just take the parchment paper and kind of push it in, and the weight of the batter will reshape into the loaf pan correctly, and it works so well, and there's very little cleanup. So I've been kind of doing that for a while. All right, now I'm just folding these chocolate chips in. This looks very good. Sorry that you can't all join me in having a slice. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'll try to find a time when maybe I can commit to this, or I'll just pick the time that week that I'll be jumping on here in the kitchen or going live, and I think let you guys know on YouTube. There's a way for me to like announce it. So I'm gonna work on figuring that out, and then you guys can join me next time. All right. Wow, I cannot believe it's taken me this long to get these in the oven, but worth it, because I am playing with these new features. Okay. Wow, that is loaf pan number 1. Hope that works. Whoop. Cool. Okay, let's see. And I hope everyone's having a lovely summer. I know I was talking about how I'm ready for fall, but we have plenty of summer left. And in Europe, for example, I don't know how it works on Australia when your holiday is. I guess it's winter for you guys. Multitasking takes longer. It does. I'm kind of running into that conundrum of I'm trying to do this video with you guys and bake at the same time. But anyway, it's winter for some of you if you're in Australia, I think. But for other folks, like in Europe, your summer vacation is just starting. August is the time when everybody's off. So the fact that I am on the internet saying that I'm ready for fall, I think makes me sound insane. But in the US, kids are off of school starting at the end of May or the beginning of June. And so it's been a while. It's almost, for a lot of universities in the US, it's actually almost back to school time, which is coming up in like 3 weeks. And I live in a city where there's a lot of universities. So the students really kind of take over the town, which is fun. I was a university student once, and I remember how amazing it was going back to school. It was very different than in high school, where I always dreaded going back to classes, but in college, everything is fun and you're with your friends. And so going back to school was like the best. It was like, sweet, I get to go back to study topics I love rather than topics I was forced to learn, and hang out with friends. Yeah. Okay, so I finally have these in the pan. That took forever. We will find a way to make this go faster in the future. I'll top it off with a few more chocolate chips. And don't worry, I will show you guys the product in just a second. But maybe the baking time is going to be less because I split this recipe. I doubled the recipe, but I split it into 2 pans, so they're actually a little bit more shallow, these banana bread pans. Okay. Sweet. That looks cute. All right. There are my little almond butter banana loaves. They're going in the oven. And thanks for joining me. I'm going to pop off of here. And stay tuned, I will be uploading the edited version of this live stream so you guys can rewatch it if you want to get the recipe. I'll throw that on there for you. And please give me feedback if this worked for you, you liked it, you want to see more stuff like this, I'm happy to do it. All right, ciao for now.